Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Tydarium Hangar. And this week I'm going to talk about my top 10 Transformers from the actual G1 line. Yes, these are the G1 Transformers that are my top 10 favorites. Some of these might surprise you, but most of them won't. Coming up. Number 10 on my list is Perceptor. Perceptor is a character that, well, most people say they don't care about the character, but I liked the G1 toy. And the reason I like the G1 toy so much is because it had some decent articulation. The actual figure itself matched the on screen representation very well. The transformation was smooth, fluid, and easy, and it looks like an actual microscope. Both modes look good. Everything about this figure does what it should do. What people don't like about the figure is they think a microscope is lame. It's not a lot of fun. But I always doubled that microscope as a cannon. Number 9 on my list is Cyclonus. Now, if I had to make this list last year, it would have changed. I kind of like Cyclonus better as a character, and I appreciate the toy so much more than I did before. This figure is really cool. The transformation to some sort of a strange space jet looks good. The bot looks good. I always was disappointed with the hands on this figure, but the articulation of the arms is decent. The articulation of the legs, not so much. Still a great figure, all in all, and from the movie line of figures, it's one of the better ones. Number 8 on my list is Omega Supreme. Now, this is one of those figures I never had as a kid. It's one of those figures that I always wanted to have, but it was so expensive and so big and hard to get my hands on, and I just had to live without and do without. But down the road, I eventually started picking this figure up, finding out it has electronics in it, it actually walks, and the same electronics in it helps the tank move around the track. This figure, as a G1 figure, was a good figure. All the stuff that they put into this was amazing. Now, I know it was repurposed from another line, but the reality of it is, this is a cool toy. Overall, all that it does, the massive amount of parts forming, still a great figure, and a lot of people love the modern iterations of this figure and this character. Size does matter, and it was already a big figure and a big character, but Crazy Debbie came out with lots of upgrade kits, one of which made him taller, a lot taller. It was a good upgrade kit, made him look really cool, and actually makes him scale a lot better with the G1 toy line. So I would say pick this Crazy Debbie kit up if you can. You know what? I put a lot of thought into this. I really thought Shockwave, my number 7, would have been a lot higher on my list, but he is still a great representation of the on-screen character. The Shockwave G1 toy made great sounds. Well, maybe they're annoying sounds. Lights up, turns into an upside down submarine mode. No, it straight up turns into a laser gun or a laser pistol, and it makes two different distinct sounds. This was an excellent toy. The transformation was ridiculously simple, but the fact that it still looked great in both modes was awesome. It was a partial, somewhat semi parts former when you clip that piece on the front of them, but it still looks really good. I really liked this figure. I liked this toy. Had him as a kid. I gotta say, this one is a much more fun and enjoyable toy than a G1 Megatron, for sure. Number 6 on my list is Brainstorm, and this is yet another one I didn't have when I was a kid. I was interested, but it was kind of past my Transformers time, and I didn't get into it. I thought it was cool, but I never bought it, never handled it, and as an adult, it was my first Headmaster figure to get. And I have to admit that I really liked this figure. It was one of the most exciting things I had purchased in my G1 collection, and I loved the fact that I had the head and the two guns, and the way it worked out, the head transforming and fitting in the cockpit. I know a lot of them did that, but I think this one pulls off the Headmaster gimmick very well. I think it looks great in both modes. I think that you can get some great articulation from the figure. I really like this one. I picked up several other Headmasters after this, and it never felt the same. They never felt as good. They never felt like it matched on screen representations as well. So I was a bit disappointed in many other Headmasters, but not in this one. Number 5 on my list is Soundwave, and I would have thought it would have been higher because he does look so good. The G1 Soundwave definitely nails the look, nails the aesthetic, does everything you would want and expect from this figure. Also, in both modes, he looks good. I know they recently reissued this guy. The reissue is good, but the original is still better. This figure looks good in both modes. The transformation is very smooth and very simple. Of course, the die cast in the original is great. The fact that they made the weapons into batteries that plug into this, just so cool. Yes, it was taken from another line. I know that it was an original concept for Transformers. Still an excellent figure. And out of all of his cassettes, Ravage is my favorite by far. Just blows every other cassette of his out of the water. Number 4 on my list is Wheeljack. Now, not only did I have Wheeljack as a kid, not only did I enjoy his transformation, and not only did I think he was a lot of fun, I did spend a lot of time playing with this figure as a kid, wishing that something could happen with the legs to give it a bit more articulation, but overall I still enjoyed the figure. I enjoyed the character. I enjoyed everything about both modes. I loved this figure. I still really enjoy this figure to this day, and it saddens me that I'm hearing we'll never get a reissue of the actual G1 version. Maybe that is bad news or bad information or fake news, but it saddens me. I would love to see Walmart reissue this guy. Number 3 on my list is the G1 Sloop. Whether you find his chest to be red or to be blue, yes, you have to get a KO to get a blue one, or paint it yourself, I think this is one of the best G1 figures out there. He has decent articulation for the time, matches his on-screen counterpart very well, transformation is smooth and easy and simple, and for a kid to transform this thing from a good-looking robot to a good-looking dinosaur bird back to a good-looking robot, the weapons integrated very well. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great figure, and I still do today. This character itself is actually one of my favorites, even though he doesn't do a whole lot in the show. Number 2 on my list is the original G1 Optimus Prime. Yes, everybody probably thought he was number 1. No, he's not. He's really close. I remember waiting for this for Christmas. I remember playing out battles with all of my other Transformers, and the discussion was, we're going to rescue Prime on, well, actually Christmas Eve, December 24th. It was a big thing that went on for months at my house, but the reality of it is the figure did not disappoint. He does lack some hip articulation, but aside from that, the rest of the articulation was great. His head turned side to side, shoulders and elbows work. He is a transformer with his fists, but in the end, it's not that big of a deal. By the way, his trailer still hasn't quite been beat in the main line yet. The only other trailer available does not match up to this amazing trailer. This trailer is heavy, solid, powerful, gets the job done. This figure came with so many accessories that we seem to struggle matching them today. My number 1 figure on my list is Jetfire. Jetfire. Well, it's not Skyfire. It's Jetfire. It is what it is. Everybody seems to think that I am some sort of a Robotech Macross lover because I love this figure, and no, I'm not. I love the character, actually, Skyfire, a lot. But this particular figure was one that I had to travel across the country as a kid to get this figure. Got it in a Toys R Us, paid $33 of my own hard-earned money, and bought this figure. Kept this figure mint in the box my entire life, and still have my mint in the box representation. Transformed it 2, maybe 3 times, only put the armor on it once, still have the infamous gun clip. This is my favorite figure and will maintain my favorite figure probably forever from the G1 line. I actually love this figure. I love the Skyfire representation that Fantoys put out, but this figure will always hold a special place in my heart. His articulation is great. It is probably the best articulated figure in the G1 line. Yes, it's the Robotech engineering. I understand Bandai did a great job and knocked it out of the park, but still it doesn't change the fact it was something sold in the Transformers line that I loved, and it looked great, and I still love this figure today. And I haven't parted with any of my 12 or so loose ones, and I probably never will. Now, I do want to do an honorable mention. I didn't squeeze Sixshot in anywhere, and Sixshot was probably my most played with figure of the G1 line. And he came late in the line, and as soon as I got him, he was the most played with figure. Because he had 6 modes, and I had to experience every mode about 35 times, this figure got transformed every day, multiple times a day, messed with all the time. As soon as he was introduced to the collection, this figure did so many things. Still, I didn't find room on him on my top 10 because the other ones I had so much longer and cared about so much more. But this figure here, there is something special about him. I wish Quick Switch had the same specialness this guy had. Let me know who your favorite G1 Transformer is. I'm talking about actual G1 Transformer figures. Which one did you like the most? Hey, maybe you didn't even like the character. You just liked the toy. Like, subscribe, and Tidarium Hanger out.